All right, here I am with Mr. LightRTZ himself. Talk about one of the pillars of the South African scene. Been around the block. He has played in a number of top flight South African scenes. Tools, you've seen a couple players come, you've seen a couple players go, mate. So I'm really looking forward to building a best South African team of all time here with you. Keen to see what your opinion is because you've played with the best that we've had in the country, and you've seen the next generation come up as well, right? Because you've still been working closely with the South African scene even when you haven't been playing. Whether it's casting, coaching, working with orgs. So I expect you to have a pretty good opinion, and have a. It's not like you only know the older stuff or the newer stuff. Like I say, you've got a good idea of everything that's been over the past 6 or 7 years. So let's get into it. Tools, obviously no Sonic or JT as the rule goes, because that's just too easy. So let's jump in with an IGL here. Let's start with an IGL. Who do you think you're going to choose for your captain of your best South African team of all time?
First and foremost, thanks for having me. It's a tough choice, to be honest. Are we looking just at CSGO? Right,
Yeah,
obviously.
I mean, you know what?
Okay.
Yeah, we're building a South African CSGO team. So,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. I'm gonna start off with I think Detriny at the helm.
Okay.
I think IGLing and probably maining that AWP. To be honest, it was between him and Black Poison for that AWP role.
Okay.
But there's no harm in having both, to be honest.
Are you a fan of having your IGL be your AWPer as well, so that he can create a system around himself, type of thing, and have him be that star AWPer?
Not necessarily. If
Okay.
they're gonna be the IGL and the AWP player, they gotta have certain characteristics within the way they play the game, as in opening up the entry frags, controlling gameplay, those long angles, and I think throughout time Detriny's done that well, while calling. But if they weren't the IGL primarily, it'll have to be Black Poison, to be honest, with that AWP. But yeah, it's got to be a star player with that AWP,
Yeah.
i.e. the best player with that AWP, or they got to be the IGL with being proficient, utilizing that OPR for sure.
Yeah. Okay, and I mean, listen, we all know Detriny, the longevity behind him as well. He's played the game at such a high level for such a long period of time. Almost the highest level as well. When he was competing in America at some of the big events with the Bravado squad, and he's shown he can do it on the big stage as well. You just watch him; it's so satisfying. It's so easy on the eye when you see him with the AWP, man.
Yeah, just to be able to move around the map, but you got to have good mechanics as well. For me, if you're gonna wield that AWP, you got to have good mechanics, force capability,
Yeah.
getting in and out dodgy situations. It's so underrated from time to time. And yeah, it's like it's like a +10 beneficiary factor, especially in those nitty gritty maps, your nukes and infernos,
Yeah.
where you are able to get those one and done angles and get out. But yeah.
Yeah, he's got that silky smooth movement, man. Absolutely. Okay, so yeah, probably comes from the Quake days, but either way, we've started off. We've got ourselves Detriny, who's going to be our caller and our AWP. So you've left yourself a lot of room here now because there's a lot of roles taken up by one player. So you can actually, you've got quite a lot of room to play with here. So who are you going to add next to this team?
Next to him, that's a tough one. I'm gonna look for anchors now. It's gonna be, I think, Domster. He has to be one of the anchors. He didn't have a long stint, i.e., like 5, 6, 7 years in terms of playing at the top echelons of Counter-Strike locally, but he's got the credence. He's got all the medals and ticks all the boxes when it comes down to just having someone you can leave alone at B and rely on them to get their one kill and survive for at least 5 to 10 seconds while the rotation comes in. I mean, that's super important. There's no good having an anchor who gets 1, 2 kills and goes down immediately, and then the site's locked up and there's no sort of avenue for retakes. So just providing that avenue for the retake or stopping the bomb plant in general, yeah, it's a big plus factor when it comes down to an anchor and B site. So I got my B anchor down.
Yeah, when you played against Dom, it was like, do we really have to go to that side of that? Do we ever have to go A Inferno? Because he played Pit there, right? I think quite regularly because he liked that anchor role, which is obviously Pit on A sides. So like, you never wanted to go wherever Dom was anchoring. And the thing is, the best part about having like Dom in your team is you can always trust him to make the right decision in every situation, right? Even on the T side, like that he's not going to do something that jeopardizes the team. Like we always know individual mistakes compromise the whole team's position in the round. And Dom was always like the other side, like always getting the team into better positions with his decision making.
100%, yeah. And I played against and with Dom for a few years, and it was always whenever we ended B, because like how I would call is you default, and then with the information you get, I'll call where we're ending.
Yeah.
And that's usually towards B, because I was always the type of guy who would abuse the B rotator a lot. It's just the easiest way to segregate sort of the defensive team is to split up B on most of the maps. I'd say 100%, and you'd always end up where Dom's in this corner or a specific angle where he's always good for 2. And you'd always have to factor that in your calculations when you're finishing off towards Dom's sides. And especially on the retakes, it almost felt like you couldn't make a mistake when you're holding down a site in a retake and he's rotating in from B.
Yeah.
You had to have everyone holding specific angles, calling when you're going to peek together and supporting each other with flashbangs. And he would also read that at the back of his head, so it would become mind games in that sense. So yeah, it's sort of a complete player in that sense.
Man, absolutely one of the gems and one of the nicest guys on top of everything
100%.
else. Like, you
So
get,
cool,
get a lot of guys,
collected.
get a lot of guys who are great at the game, but they can be a little bit like, I don't know,
Frantic.
tiresome or frantic, whatever. They've got some. Dom was just such a great guy to have in the team. So yeah. All right. So we've got the first 2 names here, Tools.
Cool.
What's
Yeah,
up?
so the third one, I'm going to have to be looking for an A rotator. I think that's the important one for me. So we got a Bianca
Sure, you're playing
mid-player.
very specific role-based choices here, Tools.
Yeah. To be honest, I pick towards the CT side if I'm going to pick a team.
Yeah.
I round up the CT side, and then from the T side, I almost feel it's more lenient towards what certain players characteristics, whether they're aggressive, passive, etc. You could always shift that around. You could always create and tailor
You
strats
adapt.
around certain players, exactly.
Okay.
But the CT side, if you don't have a good anchor, rotates, and mid player, you're gonna have a bad time. So I'm picking towards that.
Okay.
So the connector player in general, the A rotator, that's a tough one for me.
Yeah.
It might be Mistem. I have to think this through a little. Just looking at his play style, he's a bit more passive to be a rotator. He's not one for the aggression of taking those 60-40 duels, but I'm going to keep him there just because his useful usage is, it couldn't be better.
Yeah.
It's open play. For me, it's your open play utility usage as a rotator that's important, whether it's throwing a one-way smoke or smoke to cut off certain angles for you to take advantage of, etc. Yeah, I'm gonna put Mistem there. So I got Detrony, Mistem, and Domster. Sure, yeah. Okay. I'll go with that for now.
Yeah, the thing is also Gareth he's come such a long way to becoming a complete player now, Tools. As you say, there's so much more depth to his game. We saw he was in 2016. He was like this sick fragger that had like this history that no one really knew where he came from or what was going on. And then he got picked up by Zero Chance and Sinister 5, and that was really where he started to get molded into the individual that he's become today, like blossomed into, right? Worked under Black Poison and Trevor as well in NNG, and he, like now he's become this diamond. Diamonds aren't formed without pressure. So like Mistem has got like so much depth to his game now, not just a sick fragger, but like he's actually like the IGL now of ATK and has been for a long time, obviously, but that just goes to show the arc that he's had in his career. So yeah, I think Mistem's a good shout for sure.
100%. And when you consider the players he's been with, you mentioned Zero Chance. I've played in a Zero Chance, and it's underrated the value he gives you and the confidence within your own gameplay and your own decision making. It goes a long way, and it's surely embedded within the way he thinks about the game and plays the game. That confidence it speaks volumes. But yeah, especially the way how composed he actually is within himself in general, in his comms and in the server. Like they both translate and I think supplement one another. But
yeah, well, there we go. I couldn't agree with you more. Okay, so who's our fourth player we're adding to the team? So we've got Detrony as our mid player, I'm assuming on the sniper and the IGL. That's pretty standard. Then you've got Domster, who's playing as your anchor. You've got your rotator in Mistem, and now you've got...
I'm actually gonna move Mistem to an A anchor.
Okay.
Not an A rotator for sure.
Okay.
I think there's room and space for other robust players in connector or rotating in general. So I got 3, right? So that's Detrony. I got Domster
and Mistem,
and Mistem. Okay. This next one's a tough one. I want to throw Massacre in there for sure. Yeah, that's a good choice. I'm throwing Massacre in there. I just feel
your wild card.
Yeah, he's my wild card. I think he's the only gamble I'm gonna take.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, purely because of the way he is and the play style he has. He's born to be a connector or slash B rotator in general. Purely because he's always going to be looking for fights. He's always going to be looking for those. I think those certain plays that he makes just to give you the advantage mid round when they're taking, for instance, mid control or cat control, etc. He always tries to be disruptive in the way he plays the game, and he's pretty clued up as to where the opportunities are and where the windows that he can actually exploit within certain strategies. He's well rounded in terms of the way he plays. Pretty much can use any rifle, any weapon except the AWP. He can, but I'd rather have him. I'd rather have him nimble and agile, to be very honest. And yeah, he picks up big numbers. He's got BMT, like the players I've mentioned as well.
Yeah.
Especially I remember him at DreamHack India, literally just dominating some of the best players in the world. I mean, he had this 1v1 versus Yakinda, I remember, and he literally outplayed him, and I could just see the way he's thinking within the round he's playing from point to point. It's like a tick box in the way he plays and moves around the maps and uses the architecture to his advantage.
Yeah.
And he's got a unique play style, and he's very good with the multi kills.
Yeah.
And for example, in the era where he was playing with the Dara and Banana, there was no one in this country. I'd even go as far as to say some of the best Banana players in the world in terms of how they take control, how they adapt. It's always a mind game. Banana is one of the hardest, and when you break it down and you know the certain steps to take, whether it's countering certain plays, he was always there on top and always winning out those duels and winning map control, which cancelled out the whole portion of the map. So
yeah, an absolute menace to play against in every
100%.
Single sense of the word. And to go on top of everything else that you mentioned, he embodied confidence, right? Like even cockiness to an extent, because he had so much self-belief that he just saw himself as the best and that nobody could even come close to him, especially in his earlier days. Like he seems to like calm down a bit now, you know, but you know, he'll always have that confidence streak in him, which I think is so important in a player, to always have that belief and back themselves with every fight they take or every situation they end up in. And so yeah, I think that's an interesting addition to the team, Massacre. Definitely going to be a playmaker, someone who opens up and is a bit of a wild card for you, a bit of a spark that you can rely on as well. So yeah. I think that's a good choice.
Okay, now just to round it up.
Yeah.
A bit of research here, quick, just to finalize.
Okay. I'm interested to see how you're tying this all together. What's the final piece to the puzzle that's just going to make this roster sing? What's the activation?
That's Dom. I got that's Dom.
Mystem
and Mass. That's quite a power lineup.
That's a power lineup in itself.
Damn, Dom. Who's my second AWPer? That's the only issue, because there's the only way to be the best is to have a second good AWPer.
Yeah. I think they might be. You could use Mystem, you could use Massacre, you could use Dom. I'm saying they all can do it, but none of them are like a proper out and out second AWP roles like player, you know.
Exactly. And to be honest, I would definitely go with Triton or ADM. To be frank, because I definitely think those two. With Triton, the potential he has to be one of the best. Like he can use any rifle, the way he moves around the map, the fights he takes. He just needs to wax up in the situational util usage, and he'll become a complete player. Even his comms are pretty composed and accurate as well.
I mean, you've got Black Poison, you've got Adam, you've got Kani, you've got who else are like the big proven like strong AWPer / second AWP players? Like these guys are all enjoy playing the second AWP role.
Yeah. With Kani, it feels like he needs to main AWP, in my own opinion, for him to be the best player he can and add most value to the team.
All right.
But I can't have literally second AWPing. Exactly. That slot's already taken. Black Poison, he can take up a bit too much space, or he's got the numbers to back that up. Not too sure. ADM, it feels like he needs one more good year for me to put him on the best of all time. Jeez. For him, he's pretty much played every role in the game. He's, I think, the most complete player of all time, if I had to say that. IGL role, AWP, he's anchored, he's rotated. But I need one more fantastic year to actually put him in my top 5 of all time in general.
Yeah.
but again, he's the same as Detrinier in the role he plays. So yeah, there's no space for him.
I mean, I know Ruan's done a bit of second AWPing in his life, elusive. I don't know if that's a player that you would consider putting in there. I don't think he's again an out and out second AWPer.
He's a rifler.
He's like a
Listen,
solid AWPer. Yeah.
he's for me the best anchor of all time. I'd say
Okay.
that for sure.
Okay. Well,
Definitely.
that's not helping our conversation.
I know.
So
It's tough. It's tough.
I'm racking the brain here. What about like
Yeah.
what about a convict, mate?
I needed to see more out of him. I pretty much put myself before Convict. I'd say
Okay.
we were on the same level
Fair
in terms
enough.
of what value we brought to a team. Convict was definitely up there. I think Convict needed another, again, just like ADM, he needed one more fantastic year, being at the top through and through,
Yeah.
as in the best player in the best team. Like if you look at all the errors, the BVD error, the energy error, all the errors, Convict wasn't necessarily a part of all those errors. He was always the second best in all those
I
teams.
know. Always
But
the
one of the best.
bridesmaid, never the
Exactly,
bride, man.
exactly. Yeah.
I feel you.
But it's tough. I can't use Sonic. Are you sure?
No. If I let you use Sonic now and everybody else has not been able to, that I'd be blasted, mate.
Yeah.
That would be the perfect. That'd be the perfect finalization.
Okay, I'd have to round it up with Black Poison on myself then, if that was the truth. Probably Black Poison over me.
Okay.
Like it's the only way. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think that makes sense. I mean, listen, Black Poison brings a lot more than just like a second AWP role. You know, obviously
Exactly.
strong rifler, which is what you want from your second AWP. You want him to be very comfortable. He's got the rifle. Also, very like great game sense. Always trust him to make the right calls. And he's a big second voice, right? Like that you can always call on if things are getting tough or challenging, or you need to bounce an idea off someone. Like I think Black Poison's a great person to do that with.
Yeah, and he can easily take over the game. So for me, like Black Poison's is a individualistic player in my sense. You could put him on a 1v1, he'll probably win the 1v1 event in South Africa or whatever. He just won the 2v2 flick. He plays well in isolation. I think the less variables there are, I think he'll have to process them. His aim is one of the best in the country, probably is the best aim-wise in the country for a very long time.
Yeah.
It's but yeah, just playing around him can be, I think, a bit difficult if you're his teammate, I'd say.
Okay.
But definitely.
Okay, well, there we go. We've got it. So, Detriny at the helm as our main AWP. We've got Domster right there as the anchor, just like a solid brick wall as ever, and an absolute Chad in every sense. Mistim and Massacre, two of our younger players, but they've definitely proven themselves at the highest level in South Africa, competed internationally as well. And then to round it out, Black Poison. So, I mean, Tools... I think I think Coach Carter's done a pretty good job here. He's been able to come up with a hella impressive team.
Yeah, I definitely think that would be a team, an international roster for sure, that could just take on the big dogs that are out and about in the rest of the world. Probably dominate the Australian scene, put a dent in the Brazilian scene and the NA scene, mountain to climb for the EU scene. But it's possible for sure.
Well, there we go, guys. There you have it. Tools' best South African team of all time.